Welcome to Holding Space with Authentically Amy. This is a place where you don't have to perform, prove, or hold it all together. You're allowed to exhale, to feel, to speak, or just be. Here, your truth is safe, your emotions are honored, and your soul is gently invited to the surface. I'm not here to fix you because I don't believe you're broken. I believe your soul already knows the way. My role isn't to give you advice, but to hold a steady frequency of love so you have space to rise. This podcast is an extension of my own healing. If you're here, you belong, and I'm honored to sit beside you. Welcome to another episode of Holding Space with Authentically Amy. I'm your host, Amy Thurman, and I'm here with another guest to hold space for. Thank you guys for tuning in, for watching and listening. I really, really appreciate your support and the way that you're sharing these episodes and helping get these messages and stories out into the world. So, so grateful. So today, Malisa is joining us to talk a little bit about her story and herself. Malisa, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love your logo, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I created that myself.
I think it's so cute. I'm really into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks. I'm glad you
Well,
like it.
I'm really excited to be here. And I think probably what's coming up for me to talk about today is just kind of the journey I've been on. Um, I, well, I had one of those like, five alarm childhoods. And so I experienced every level of abuse that you can experience.
Mm.
Both my parents were addicts and they were young, and I wasn't the first child. And like we did a lot of back and forth between our grandparents and our parents, and then our grandparents, and then just my mom, foster care, kinship foster care. I was in the hospital diagnosed with failure to thrive at like 2 months old because of neglect. Like they were putting
Wow.
like orange juice in my bottle kind of situation. And I don't
Yeah.
think there was any malicious intent. I really don't, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they were not good, you know? And so
Yeah.
that really shaped so much of the rest of my childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. But the kinship foster care with my grandma, because then my grandpa left too. When I was 11 years old, he divorced my grandma for his best friend's wife after 36 years of marriage, because that's how good of a person he was.
Oh,
But and he blamed it on us and said it was because she wouldn't let him discipline us the way he disciplined his children, which was malignant narcissism and violence. I mean, it was awful. And I mean, it was a lie. I mean, he was having an affair and he got caught and he left. So it is what it is. But yeah, then my dad died when I was 15 of a morphine
wow.
overdose.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
And the worst part about that really was a fighting internally for feeling like ownership of the grief, because I wasn't raised by him. Even though they were still present in our lives, we did, weekend visits occasionally, like we saw him probably 5 times a year, but it was meaningful time that we spent with him. And then that last couple of years, we had spent a lot of time with him. In fact, that he died 10 days after his birthday on Valentine's Day. And
Oh, wow.
I had just spent a significant time with him at Christmas, and I had just
Mm.
seen him 3 days prior. So, like, we had a relationship, and I'm still fighting for the ownership. I'm like, no, we did. And no, but like, so that, I mean,
Yeah.
truly, like, just owning my own experience has been challenging for me because of the way I felt like other people viewed it, even though they probably didn't. I mean, I did have a friend one time, we were shopping for Mother's Day and I was getting my grandma something and my mom something. And she's like, but why would you get your mom something? Like, and I was like, because she's my mom and it's Mother's Day. So, that probably shaped a lot of that. But then also, my grandma had, she was a narcissist. She really, a covert, and it was from her own pain and her own fear and her own shame and all of the things. But it is what it
Yeah.
is. She was. And so,
Yeah.
she hated my dad, hated him, blamed him for every wrong thing that happened to my mother in her existence since meeting him. She was very cruel about my dad dying because, well, you're from Oklahoma, so you know Dairy Queen. And on the south side of Oklahoma City, there was a Dairy Queen there, and that's where he died, in the bathroom there.
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah, and she just made jokes about it as if there's anything funny about your dad being found dead in a bathroom.
Yeah.
But so becoming this fortress of protection for myself from her while
Mm,
also fighting to feel like I had any right to grieve while also being compared to my brothers who are living their pain a lot louder than I was. I was the golden child of the system. I'm a people pleaser. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do to show up in this system. And so I'm being told they took it harder. It was harder for them. It hurt them more. So again, I'm fighting for that right to grieve my dad.
mm,
That was probably uh, among like even though so many things had happened every single day of my life up until that point when I was 15 and he died, that was the first real transformative experience that I can link so many things back to in terms of when I started to build those layers of protection between myself and everyone else. And so I went along, high school really sucked then because it was like I just knew intuitively, like, you guys don't get it. Like this is
hmm.
so much bigger than this stuff.
You're
And I just
right.
felt so separated from everyone I knew because no one I knew understood grief. They hadn't had a loss. It's not common to lose a parent or anyone else by the time you're 15. And so,
Sure.
of course, I had incurred all of these other losses, up to this point through foster care and all the things. But like I just felt so isolated and alone. And I think I started to confirm that narrative on, subconsciously too. I was pushing people away also
Mm,
because I can definitely see people attempting to support me and me not liking the way it felt. And so it was like, oh no, nobody's here for me. And I think that was really the beginning of that victim mindset that people didn't love me the way I love them. Nobody shows up for me the way I show up for them, that kind of thing. So then I kind of just coasted through high school. When I was 18, I moved out and met a boy and immediately moved in with him because that was smart. And I lost my virginity to him. And because I was raised
mm,
in Oklahoma, I was like, oh, but if I marry him, it's fine. Because that's kind of,
mm,
my grandma had said, like, you are absolved of the sin of premarital sex if you marry the fella. So I was
mm.
like, "Oh, honey, I hope you know we're getting married." And so I was like on that track, like from the second it started. I was like, "Okay, but we're getting married, just so you know." And I thought I laugh truly because I thought I was doing it right because I was doing things
Yeah.
so much better than anyone in my family had up to that point.
Yeah.
And when I say family, I mean the maternal side of my family because I never had that much contact with the paternal side, but I always like to throw that out there because a couple of them did go to college and da da da, and I just don't want to hear it if it ever comes out that I said I was the first in my family. So, yeah, so I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think my childhood really affected me that much because I'm not like my brothers who at that point were already when I turned I moved out of my house at 18 and my brother who was a year older than me had a psychotic break and was schizophrenic and that was a lot of fun to deal with. And the trauma that
Yeah.
came with that was wild. And then my younger brother, who was a year younger, he had been running away since he was 14, doing drugs. I mean, both of them, lots of drugs, lots of stuff, lots of trauma inflicted on me growing up in a house with brothers who are doing all this and a grandma who's using me as the support system and all this stuff, right? So then I was like, oh, I think what will help this situation is having a baby. So
Mm.
we
I thought you might say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had baby fever all of a sudden. It just hit me out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I was like, yes, bringing children into this is definitely what we need to do. So 22, pregnant, and then my mom died. Like I
Oh,
still kind of
geez.
feel like it was not a bad decision, like in the grand scheme of whatever. Yes, I would never make that decision again. And Lord knows we've all paid for that decision. But I don't know that I would have made it through. Because my instinct when she died was to just run away and burn it all down. Like, but I couldn't because I was
Yeah.
pregnant, because I had no coping
Yeah.
skills. So I was like, let's just run away. That's what I'm gonna do. I was like, I
Sure.
don't have that much money, but I do want to get in my car and just drive until I run out of gas and just maybe pitch a tent and never leave. Like, and whatever
Yes.
that means, that's what I want to do. And
Totally
so,
been there. Yeah.
yeah, it was a
It is a
very
coping, a survival skill.
visceral.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so she died related to hepatitis C and cirrhosis of the liver.
Mm.
And she was also incarcerated at the time. She had been in prison for a few years, which actually was the most beautiful gift that I could have ever been given because she did opt in prison, though you can make different choices in prison and be just as high or more high as you were on the streets. She was in recovery. She was working towards rehabilitation when she got out, and we made all the peace that I needed, like all the things that needed to
Hmm.
be said, all the things that needed to be resolved. There was nothing left unturned by the time she died. So that
Wow.
truly was like the biggest gift that she could have given me
Yeah.
because I mean, I just my dad dying so suddenly, I had so much I wanted to apologize for because I was an angry teen.
Sure.
And I had every right to be, and so I forgive my teenage self now, but at the
Yes.
time, that's what I was really holding on to is he didn't know I loved him and, all the things. I mean, I think he did. I think we get it, but
Yeah.
it just hurt me that I didn't get to like have that goodbye. And I was lucky even in the way that my mom died. There was a 3-week situation in the hospital. We got to say goodbye properly there too. So really
Hmm.
that whole thing was such a gift. Like if you're gonna have to lose a parent, that
Sure.
situation was probably the best way for me personally for it to have gone down. But that was kind of the beginning of my adult life because I'm pregnant. I had done some college, had attempted right after high school, didn't go well. I graduated with like a 1.5, a 1.7 because I had trauma brain. I could not have cared less
Sure.
about school.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. And it just felt so suffocating and like nobody understood me and, you know, which was not what I showed on the outside. I was the class clown, like I had friends. I played soccer. I was the life of the party always, with my little Gemini self. But inside, I was just so alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so having him kind of put me on a trajectory where I was like, I want to be serious about college because I want to do this different. I want to do this better. But I think we're probably around the same age, and nobody was talking about trauma
Mhm.
until the late 90s and only in relation to veterans with PTSD. And so for
Yeah.
me, I didn't have a single clue. And the way my trauma showed was my reactivity because I internalized everything and then just exploded on the people the closest to me. And that reactivity was the single most greatest source of my shame. It just ate at
Mhm.
me all day, every day. I mean, my grandma was pretty like horrible about it. Like if I showed any sort of reactivity, I was just told what a horrible person I was. My younger brother had a better heart than me, and blah, blah, blah. The person
Mhm.
I've tried so hard to please and to be perfect for my entire life, and it was never good enough. You know how it is. And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I was just so in my pain about how reactive I was because I believed I was just a mean person. I had no idea that this was a response to something happening inside of my
Yeah.
body.
That's what
Yeah.
people were telling you. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was awful because who wants to be mean? And who
Hmm.
the pain really came when I saw the pain reflected back at me that I was causing in others. And I just
Mm.
had nowhere to turn with it. So what I do? I doubled down. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so fast forward, I go through all of my adult life thinking I'm just mean, but my childhood really didn't have that much of an effect on me. Started in 2017 to kind of like understand the effects of trauma, but had no idea how my wounding was created and when it was
Yes.
triggered, how to understand what to do with it. I was hearing about emotional regulation, which sounded so beautiful, but you have to know why you're dysregulated to know how to regulate. And I just had
Yes.
no idea. None, none, none. It was I remember just trying so hard and feeling like I was running a marathon every day with the energy I was putting into trying to regulate because I was trying to use the finite amount of self-control and discipline that we're given each day and trying to use a judgmental approach on myself. And so I got to October of 2023 when I was like, you know what? We've given it the old college try. I truly believe my family, more specifically my children, are better off without me. Like that
Mhm.
was a very resounding noise happening in my brain. And
Yeah.
so I had struggled with depression off and on my entire life, but this was the first time I ever made a plan and I meant it. Like the
Mhm.
plan was gonna work, you know?
Yeah.
But because of who I am, I started going through the calendar because I realized my oldest child's birthday was a couple of days away or a couple weeks away from when I was planning. And I was like, well, we don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
let's, but his birthday's in November. And so I was like, well, and then there's Thanksgiving, then there's Christmas, then there's the next kid's birthday. The next day, I'm like, "God, when can I die?" And
Yeah.
I like settled on a date, like August 1st is when I decided. So I was like, well, if we're gonna make it to August 1st, because I didn't know how I was gonna make it. Like I wasn't any happier than I was when I made the decision. So I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we got to make it to that date. So something has to change.
Yeah.
And I just kind of started slowly moving pieces. And I mean slowly, I was a wreck. My poor children were so traumatized during this time because I was just wailing from my soul
Mhm.
hours every day because I was also trying to become more emotionally available because that was something I'd kind of discovered that I don't know how to be vulnerable. Even though I felt like all the trauma dumping that I'd done my entire life was vulnerability, I didn't realize I had no connection to those
Yeah.
experiences. You know, like I could
Yeah.
tell them like a stand-up comedian all day, but telling it like this, where I'm like, in the moment, I'm embodied, you know?
Mhm.
Like I almost cried talking about my mom in prison because that was such a meaningful time for me. Used to, I would
Sure.
probably not have talked about it, but if I did, I just would have, the block would have been there, you know? Like I'm talking about someone else almost. So I had kind of
Right.
started trying to be like, let's feel things. Didn't really know how, but I did know how to cry. I sure did know how to
Mhm.
cry. So I just cried also like my voice was just so raw from like the wailing all the time
Yeah.
and I was just miserable because I just did not know what to do. So I started kind of leaning into some creative outlets that I didn't know that I had. I didn't know I had the ability to be creative, but it would help me
Mhm.
like get into this flow state and I could not think for just a little while. That was the thing is my head was very, very, very noisy. And so there was all of these things just telling me how I was such a failure at any given moment. I mean, I could be laughing and smiling with you and over here thinking about how these people don't know that I have a plan and they're going to be so sad when it
Mhm.
happens because like I'm just having a good old time with you. And it was fun. We were having a moment, but not this never went away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in March of that year of 2024, I put in my notice at work because I was a school counselor and this just the system of education had just been very toxic for me and
Mhm.
I just knew it was time to go. It was not what I needed for myself anymore. And I kind of started moving pieces to like be in private practice, even though I knew I wasn't going to start that yet. I just knew that was a long range goal. And I started a podcast. And it was on that podcast that I met someone who taught me about a guy who works in Arizona. His name's Troy Love, and he has what's called the Finding Peace method. And he
Hmm.
wrote a book called the Finding Peace Workbook. And there was two things that changed my life immediately. Like immediately, I've never been the same. And that was one, taught me where my wounding was created from and how to differentiate. Like I my betrayal wound is the biggest wound I have, and I felt it all the time. Every single experience was a betrayal because I would create these beautiful
Yeah.
expectations. And when they weren't met, you betrayed me. And I believed
Mhm.
it to be a you problem. You did this
Yeah.
to me. And
Yeah.
so differentiating that and my neglect wound was the second biggest one. And I just recognized how often, anytime I felt like I had to deal with something without support, I was in that neglected space. And that narrative of like, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders and no one to help me carry it. I can't tell you how many times I'd tell my husband, like, I'm on an island. I'm on an island by myself. Like, I would say that at least once a day. I'm so serious. And he'd be like, just looking at me wild, like, I'm here and I'm doing
Oh,
so much. Like, what are you talking about?
yeah.
And so, me and on the island, that we just kept going. But the part that I was like, oh, that's all this is. He broke shame down into different archetypes so that you can see there's a ton of faces to shame, and that all this that was happening up in my head, that's all it was. It was just these little different archetypes. I thought I was going insane because they were fighting with each other. Because, one would come in and be like, Melissa, you know better, blah, 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 blah. And then they would be like, yeah, but I wouldn't have done that if they hadn't done this. And then I'm doubling down, and then
Yeah.
I'm empowered to act like a psycho now because, this Royal is the name of the one that, blames everyone outside of you. She's really empowered me to act like a jerk now because, it was your fault, really. I mean, because I would never do that if you hadn't done that.
Yeah.
And
The
I was,
victim. Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had no idea. Zero victim consciousness whatsoever. I would have slapped someone in the face that had said that to me. If they said that
Yeah.
I made myself a victim, I'm serious, I would have had that big of a reaction because I did not believe that about myself. And so,
Yeah.
surprise, very victimy. And so I kind of worked through that. And once I learned how to like just shut those down, because I knew why they were there. I knew what their function was, and I knew how to quiet them. The other part was learning how to experience feelings for the first time in my life. That was a wild
Yeah.
journey. That was
Yeah.
wild. Like, I didn't I never knew I was going to have to like give a feeling a texture and try to locate it in my body and do all these things to try to understand like how to be out of my head and into my heart.
Hmm.
And I like to tell this story because it still feels so impactful to me. The very first time I felt myself come home to me, I was driving
Mm.
down the road and I had a little system in place because I still wasn't good at recognizing when I was overthinking. And so I had a mantra, out of your head into your heart. Hadn't really learned how to do it yet, but I had the mantra. And
Yeah.
so I'm driving down the road and I'm the first step in recognizing I'm overthinking is noticing tension. And I was like, dang,
Hmm.
my back is hurting so bad. Oh, so are my shoulders. Dang, my neck is too. And I was like, I was overthinking. What was I overthinking about? And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, uh, out of your head into your heart. I recognized, I was like, oh, you were overthinking about a rejection, a perceived rejection. You felt rejected. Feel it, don't think it. And I felt myself drop in, and that was the first time. I swear to you, I had not been connected to this body in 44 years at that point. And
Yeah.
I felt what it felt like to come home. And I was like, oh, that was very powerful. And
Yeah.
truly from there, learning how to experience feelings and not overanalyze and think myself to death, that I was able to quiet all of that noise. Like, I don't overthink. I live in the moment. I'm present. I'm mindful. I know how to differentiate between, betrayal and neglect like quickly. I don't have to sit and like, because I like to use my wounding instead of like feeling labels, because I'm the type of person to be like, is it disappointed or frustrated? What am I feeling?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
I'm the
like,
same way.
that doesn't
Yeah.
really matter as much as what was triggered, honey. What was triggered? And
Yeah.
I would know, like, it's one of these
Exactly.
five basic wounds. And so, yeah, I mean, that was the first step, was quieting that noise. And then I just learned how to connect with myself and embody that light. And I believe that my mission is to go through things, experience a transformation, share that transformation with others. And so
Hmm.
that's what I'm really passionate about, is sharing my journey so that people can understand, like, if I can learn this, anyone can. Because while I'm in the mental health community, thought I knew everything, Did not seek therapy because I didn't feel like anybody could offer me anything I couldn't offer myself. Not cute,
Sure.
you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what can they tell me that? And some of that was because of all that good girl wounding, like I'm the golden child. No one ever worried about me. Everyone's always so
Hmm.
impressed by me. And, oh, it seems like you know exactly, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know anything, nothing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today is just kind of teaching others how to quiet that noise and connect with themselves and embody the light.
So powerful. There are so many rabbit trails I want to go down with your story. I love it so much, but I want to start with how I have learned that our emotions are part of our communication system, that we're taught that they're bad, to stuff them down, like you said, and don't feel them, push them away. They're bad, they're bad. But we have to understand that they're part of our communication system. They're sending us a message. And exactly what you did, come at it from a place of curiosity instead of
Mm-hmm.
assigning meaning, whether it's good or bad. Just
Yeah.
allow it to be what it is
Or
and
even
come at it from a
morality.
place of curiosity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
curiosity piece, I think, is key. And that's one of the things that we're not taught because we're taught that it's bad.
Yes, because curiosity does not, lend itself very well to compliance, which is the main goal of the way we were raised. I do see people doing this differently, but anyone in as an elder millennial, a Gen X, or a boomer or older, like everyone was taught compliance. I mean, you see this even in the difference between how Gen Z shows up to employment versus what Gen X did. And I'm not,
Hmm.
there are times it's frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. My little Gen
Yeah.
X millennial self, like sometimes it annoys me, but I watch Gen Z understand, like, I will provide as much value as you provide respect to me. And we were
Hmm.
not taught that. We were very much taught respect is earned, not given. And you have to, even though like I have to give this grown up respect without them doing anything just because they're a grown up, and then they
Right.
don't have to give it back to me until they feel I have earned it.
Hmm.
And that was something that really messed with me. And then also in the compliance and putting other people's comfort ahead of our own. One of the things I talk about really passionately a lot is that, you know, the boomers of the world loved and still do apparently to come up to little girls and compliment them, touch their hair. They had free license to do all of the things. And we were very much programmed to say thank you, to like it, to
Yeah.
whatever. Not real surprising that we lost touch with our intuition because my intuition would tell me, don't
Yeah.
touch me, stranger. But we were not
Hmm.
allowed to voice any of that. We had to be compliant. And so
Yeah.
that's
Oh, that
when
respectful piece is it's really, really a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up because it goes back to the part of your story where you were taught to respect these people who weren't respecting you and who were telling you things about yourself that were bad, but you pretty much had to believe them because you had to
yeah,
give them a level of respect whether it was true or not. And the intuition inside of us says, I don't think that's right, but we choose to believe it because of this inherited respect that we're expected to give them.
absolutely. Well, that and sometimes the way intuition works, especially when you're new to it, is you feel something and then maybe you're going to go to like a friend or whatever and say, I kind of feel like this is what is truth for me. And someone around you is usually going to confirm that in some way, like, I could see that being truth for you. When you're a child and you're instinctively speaking out for yourself by saying that doesn't feel good, teasing. I'm going to put that in quotes because I hate the word because there's no teasing. It was bullying. But that was
Mm,
a real centered theme of my life because I was raised by my grandma. She had 5 children. My mother was the youngest, but the 4 other children had lots of children too. They all came to our house for holidays and to see grandma and whatever. I was around them a lot. Every holiday, they picked one or two of the children to be the center of the bullying. And it was just
Mm,
teasing. And
yeah.
every time I spoke out, I was too sensitive and I didn't know how to take a joke. So while my
Yeah.
intuition is screaming at me that it's okay for this to be hurtful, that the people you love the most in the world are making fun of you.
Hmm.
The parts of you that make you you, they're just dismissing, diminishing, criticizing. That's an appropriate response to feel hurt. But yet I'm being met with more hurt by telling me what an idiot I am for feeling hurt. Like, so and so doesn't mind. And it was all the time, all the time,
Hmm.
all the time. And so I just became further and further and further separated from my body, from my intuition, and from any sort of understanding about me. How do I navigate any of this? Obviously, I'm so stupid I can't even take a joke. So I can't make
Yeah.
decisions for myself.
Yeah. Oh, I dealt with that too. Like my family, especially my older brother, loved to tease me. He would my skin is very pale, so he would call me Casper,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked to eat when I was a kid, so he would call me the human garbage disposal, and they would laugh and think it's funny, and I would get my feelings hurt. But just like you, when I would say that's not nice, then everyone would say, well, he's just teasing. Can't you take a joke? Why are you taking it so seriously? And then I came to be start holding on to those things. I stopped saying things out loud like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I learned to stuff down what I was feeling because someone was going to tell me that it was wrong to feel that. And I think a lot of people do that. That's kind of how we're taught, what society teaches us to do. And it's so troubling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Internalize, internalize, internalize. Because I could remember very consciously thinking I would rather hurt with this inside than to try to share and be shut down and dismissed. Like that was a very central theme in my relationships, like with friends especially, is they would do something to hurt my feelings and I tried for a while to like, because I didn't know how to communicate it either. I wasn't very good at it, and I'm sure I was attacking in my language, so not real surprised that it wasn't met with warmth. But
Yeah.
I was dismissed again, and I just learned like it's not safe to tell people when I'm hurt. So I either decide to get over it by myself, like I would just go periods of time without talking to people until I didn't like hold the feelings for them anymore.
Yeah.
Some people never got spoken to again. Like that's just
Yeah.
because that was safer to me because I was so tired of being dismissed for just having feelings. Being told you're too sensitive your entire life, including in your adult friendships, it's
Hmm.
it's tiring and it's burdensome because okay, I'm too sensitive. Excellent. Where do I go from here? And so you just
Right.
learn how to just hold it all in because I would rather deal with things on my own than to ever be dismissed again. That's still I don't think I'm as triggered by that anymore because I understand why people are dismissive. That was a part of my
Hmm.
journey is realizing I'm also just as dismissive as everyone else, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, truly
Yeah.
that was the journey was learning I do all of the things also that I am so clearly seeing other people do to me and learning that loving myself, embracing myself for exactly who I am, being fine with you know, I'm not like I am much less reactive. I mean, that's true. And I don't freak out on my children the way I used to. Sometimes I'll still yell, like I have an 11-year-old, I'll still yell at her. I still cuss. I still am rude to my husband on the daily basis. I'm still working through like, my little protective layers with him. I'm
Sure.
okay with it. I used to think that accountability was a cross of perfectionism and that you had to hate yourself better. Like
Mm,
you're not being accountable if you're
yeah.
not sitting here and just telling yourself how horrible of a person you are, because that's what we're taught, right? I mean, that's what
Hmm.
motivates change is to shame someone to their demise. And so
Yeah.
just kind of learning to embrace exactly who I am, hold the fire that I have. Like I was spending lots of years trying to extinguish it, and I just had to learn to hold it. And I love my fire. I love exactly who I am because that fire gives me the ability to advocate for others and to love in such a big way, but I just had to learn how to cultivate that love within me first. And then the
Hmm.
compassion piece came where it was like, okay, it's okay. Like that, I think everyone who goes on a healing journey thinks there's going to be a time that you fixed all these things about yourself. You're not going to be
Yep.
those things anymore. No,
Yeah.
not true, because I still make lots of mistakes every day, but
Me too.
I know how to reflect on them and just go, I don't like the way that felt. What would I do differently next time? And
Yeah.
I've made big mistakes, big ones. I literally don't care. I mean, I feel vulnerable in saying that because I know how it's received by people who don't understand it, and I still don't care.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, you
care that
just
I make
understand
mistakes.
it, right? You just
Yeah,
understand it in a different way now. And I feel like those of us with huge hearts who are super sensitive, who always have been super sensitive and can see through things. Like I can see through walls that people have up. I see right to their soul, and who are very
hmm
intuitive, that it is a struggle for us because people don't understand where we're coming from or why we say the things we do or why it affects us the way it affects us. But I learned, especially after I turned 50, that I'm like that. I'm like, you know what? I don't really I do care, but it's like I'm not going to withhold pieces of me just because other people don't understand it. Like I will share things, and if people don't understand it and they take it wrong and they use it against me,
right.
then they don't get my time. Like I don't
They're
get
not
to
your
I don't
people.
I don't use my time and energy on them anymore. And it has becoming like a scaling down of just removing people right and left and right and
Baby,
left,
me
to
too. That's why I
find
was
my
like, you
people.
live close. Let's be friends. No,
Yes.
but it's real. That is so real. And
Yeah.
let me a little caveat here. I can care in a moment. Any given moment, it can bother me to be, rejected by somebody, to be scolded by somebody, whatever. But the larger truth at play here is that I know what I'm here for.
Hmm.
It's not just this purpose of, moving us to higher, levels of consciousness and whatever. Like that is part of it, but that's just my soul doing what souls do. But
Right.
like truly, we're supposed to have the most fun we can have in this human
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
We don't heal. Like the whole point isn't to heal. You heal so that you can get the most out of this. And I'm leaning into that principle where if something's off balance, I go to joy. What have I done
Hmm.
for fun lately? Like if I'm white knuckling through an experience, I got to go for fun. So that's something that I'm really working hard to make sure I'm always integrating is joy, fun, lightheartedness, because that's the center of my magic. That's where I'm doing the best work is when I'm constantly in an energy of fun and play. I don't have to take life so seriously anymore. And I used to really take it seriously. But I think it was because I was sitting and spending so much time in this analytical brain, just trying to
Yeah.
figure life out because I didn't know what was wrong and I didn't know how to fix anything inside of me. And I guess I would say I learned I didn't have to. And I wasn't broken. I was not a broken
Yeah.
person the way I thought I was. I was
Yes.
fine exactly how I was. I needed to unbecome a couple things. I needed to deprogram some real big things. I won't say that I didn't, but I was a beautiful, wonderful human being. And I didn't see that at all. Like
Yeah.
I believed myself to be those things I was programmed to believe. And I wasn't. And when people would be like, "Oh, Melissa, you have the biggest heart," all I could think was, "Oh, well, if you knew me, you wouldn't say that." Like I couldn't
Hmm.
receive the love that people did try to
Yes.
give me because I didn't love myself.
Yes.
I believed myself to be practically demonic. I mean, I saw myself so hatefully. And
Yeah.
I was subconscious because I remember right before the pinnacle of that mental health crisis, preaching to others about loving themselves. And I liked myself and unraveling all the ways in which I hated myself. It's been a process. It still comes up. I'm still learning the ways in which fear it leads a conversation or shame leads a conversation or perfectionism and how I need to, create the container of safety within myself to make it expand so I can have conversations with people without being nonstop triggered. That's I haven't been really sad to feel so isolated. The isolation that I feel now is not the same as before. It's been intentional.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I can be easily triggered still when people say
Yeah.
things that I find
Hmm.
to be hurtful. And so just
Sure.
learning to expand that and understanding like their stuff's about them, my stuff's about me, and how
Mhm.
can I grow from this conversation? And I don't have to agree with anything anyone says, but I want to grow because I want to be able to sit there and somebody say something and not send me to the moon. I want to be able to stay grounded. Like maybe a little escalated. I'm not saying that's not normal. I don't want anyone to listen and think that it's not normal to be triggered by people. But my triggers looked really ugly. Like I could just snap at you like that. And that's not the person I want to be. And so for
Yeah.
my own energetic cycle and my own purpose and my own passion, my own love and compassion for myself, peace is my currency. I don't want to give it up. And so
Hmm.
I want to sit in peace when people are just, being idiots sometimes.
Yeah. That's really one of the main reasons I wrote my second book. It's the Polish the Mirror self-discovery book. It's a reflective coloring workbook that walks
Ooh,
you
I
through the
love that.
self-discovery process. And so, because that joy, I love to color, and I did art therapy and got so much out of art therapy that
I
I thought
love
it's got to
that.
include that piece in it. It's got to have a reflective piece. It's got to have questions and journaling and all these things
Yes.
that walk you through the self discovery process, because I wanted to figure out who I was beneath the expectations and the roles and the hats that I wear and all these things that other people had put on me, that I wanted to know who I was beneath it all. And that's who, because I'm all about authenticity. I've got to
Yes.
be authentically me, but I can't if I don't know who I really am. And so
Right.
all of that wraps up into that piece of joy, the creativity, the self discovery piece. And then you own it. And the people who don't understand it, you just graciously allow them. I just remove them, very graciously, and just keep moving on. And my circle
They
is
usually
very,
will
very
remove
small.
themselves too.
Yeah,
Like, and I just
yeah.
allow the space to get bigger, I mean, because they
Hmm.
don't, you vibrate differently, whether you're a person who's believing in energetics or not, you do. And
Right.
so
Hmm.
I'm just not on the same frequency with so many of the people that I used to be, because something I really preach about is we, especially as women, but most people in general, we are programmed to socialize by either talking, like gossiping or complaining. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
it. And that was the way I used to connect with people. I didn't have an authentic way to, connect unless someone was telling me their problems and I was giving them all of my valuable insight, which is
Right.
laughable now. But, you know, like, hey, they seemed to think I knew what I was talking about. But like now I choose to not speak if the conversation can't be like this. That's
Hmm.
why I love doing what I do. I am a therapist now, and I have been trying to be on as many podcasts as possible. Some of that really is the socialization aspect because I don't want to talk about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
They don't matter to me, and I don't think they should matter to other people. So I don't want to talk about them. Just the meaningless,
Yeah.
trivial stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do want to be respectful of your time. And I do want to give you an opportunity to share more about what you do, how people can reach you, and what maybe it looks like to work with you.
So in terms of my current offers, I'm kind of reworking them. I'm, listening to my intuition and kind of building that.
Yes.
But I'm very active on Instagram at melissa.hebner. My name is spelled a little different, Malisa. Currently, the biggest like work that I'm creating is I've created a bunch of like monthly I'm putting up monthly instant download workbooks for really cheap. They're easy to access. You download it, you can print it or not print it. The last one was called The Balance Within, and it was an actual 28-day practice of several of different components of, spirituality, blah, 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 lots of stuff. And so I will put them, like the next one will come out probably next weekend. I don't know when this will air, but every month there's a new workbook. But I have everything connected to my link tree, and
Hmm.
Instagram's the easiest to get to, and my link tree is there. And I have a podcast called Emotionally Unavailable where I have conversations very similar to this all the time. or an expert comes on and I get free advice from them because I do that a lot. And then also they'll offer me a free service. I take them up on it. Like
Yeah,
I'm a
right.
student of life, so I'm really trying to
Yes.
take in as much information as possible and really just trying to hit the message home that you're great exactly how you are. Learn to love this person, who you are right now.
Hmm.
But also when you change, the world around you changes, and the ripple
Yeah.
effect is real, and it does start with you, whether you're a mental health professional, whether you're a nurse, whether you're whatever you are, whatever space you're in, you healing you and being the best you that you can be does impact in a very big way. I'm getting the most beautiful confirmation of that, like over and over in this last week. And I cannot say it enough that it it is enough to just come home to you and be in your home and take care of you and make you the priority. That is enough. Even though the
Yes.
world is going crazy right now and there are so
Yeah.
many things that we wish we could do, if you have the capacity to advocate or to be an activist, sure, do that. But if right now you just don't know up from down and you're scared and or tense or anxious or whatever, work on you. That's what the world needs, is people who understand compassion. Because when you begin to give yourself all that compassion, all that unconditional positive regard, you can't help but start to see I'm not any different than anyone else. They're not any different than me. I see the
Mm.
me in them and then me and the them in me. I do see humanity as one. And when you get to that space, that's when real change happens. It happens in you and it happens in all the spaces around you, and all those people in those spaces, they go in different spaces. It's enough. It's more than enough,
Hmm.
and you are more than enough. So if anything I said resonated, you want to, I also have another podcast called Unquiet Soul. It's a little less serious, but I have a co-host that I met on my show, and I was like, I want to highlight other parts of my personality. So it's
Oh,
it's
cool.
fun. It's astrology, it's spirituality, it's some tools, like we do talk through, rejection and things like that, but it's fun. It's a fun, lighthearted space. And so maybe if you just are like me and I'm really careful about what I consume,
Hmm.
um, it's fun to listen to. So you can find my podcasts on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, or through my link tree. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing.
Oh, so good. I love this so much. And we definitely need to get together. I think you said it,
Yes,
but Melissa figured out that she and I live like 30 minutes from each other, and we've never met. So this is so cool. It's
I
meant
know,
to
it's so
be.
exciting.
Yes, definitely resonating for sure. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being here. I will put your Instagram link in the show notes so that people can find it real easily. Just click on it and get to you in your link tree there. And for those of you watching and listening, thank you so much for tagging along. Please share this so that other people can learn from this as well, and we can share Melissa's story out to the world at a more rapid rate. And thank you again. And until next time, I will be here holding space for you. Thank you for being here. And to my guest, thank you for your honesty, your courage, and your truth. It's an honor to hold space for people like you. If something in this episode stirred something in you, if you breathed deeper, softened, or felt a pull inward, consider this your invitation. Whether you're ready to share publicly or prefer to remain anonymous, I'd love to hold space for you too. This work isn't just for podcasts, it's for people everywhere. And I'm bringing it into businesses, schools, communities, organizations, anywhere humans need a place to be and for someone to hold space for them. To learn more or to schedule your own session or to be a guest on this podcast, visit www.getamyshelp.com or just reach out to me. I'll meet you with open arms and a quiet, sacred seat. Until next time, thank you for being beautifully, unapologetically human.